This video on the YouTube channel Blockspawns Funds is created for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial or investment advice. All investments carry risk. Viewers are strongly encouraged to conduct their own research and consult qualified financial professionals before making any financial decisions. Hello and welcome. Today we're going to dig into a question that sounds really simple, but honestly, it unlocks the entire magic of crypto. What really happens after you click that send button? Okay, so let's really think about this. You've put in an address, typed in the amount, and you hit send. From your end, the funds just kind of vanish from your wallet, and a little while later, they show up in someone else's. But that one simple click, it kicks off this absolutely fascinating invisible journey, a multi-step odyssey across a global decentralized network of computers. So let's start right at the beginning. The first part of this journey, what I'm calling the send-off, it all happens right inside your wallet before your transaction even touches the wider network. It all boils down to 3 super quick steps. Your wallet creates the transaction details, you sign it to prove it's really you, and then, and only then, is it broadcast out to the world. Let's break that down a bit more. So what even is a transaction? At its core, it's really just a message, a piece of data. Your wallet software pulls together the essential info, where the crypto's coming from, where it's supposed to go, and exactly how much is on the move. You can almost think of it like writing out a digital check. Now, to authorize this digital check, we have to talk about keys. Your public key is a lot like your bank account number. It's your address, right? You can share it with anyone and everyone so they can send you funds. No problem. Your private key, though, that's a different story. That's like your bank PIN. It has to stay a secret because it's the one thing that gives you the power to actually spend your money. So how does that private key work its magic? Well, your wallet takes it, mixes it with all the transaction data, and creates something totally unique, a digital signature. This is some seriously cool cryptographic wizardry. It mathematically proves that you, and only you, authorize this transfer, and it does all that without ever revealing your secret key to anyone. It's amazing. All right, so the transaction is created and it's been signed. The very last step inside your wallet is to broadcast this message. It shoots it out to a few computers on the network, which we call nodes, and then those nodes pass it on to the nodes they're connected to, and so on, spreading it across the entire globe, just like ripples in a pond. And just like that, the transaction has left your wallet. It's out in the wild now. This is where stage 2 begins, the waiting game. This is where your transaction gets checked and double-checked by the network and then has to wait in line to be permanently recorded. As your transaction is zipping across the network, every node that gets it basically acts like a bouncer at a club. It runs a quick checklist. First up, is that digital signature legit? That confirms you're the real owner. Second, do you actually have the funds to send? This is huge. It prevents what's called double spending. And third, is the whole thing formatted correctly? Does it follow the network's rules? Only if it gets a yes on all 3 does it get past the velvet rope. Okay, so where do all these valid but still unconfirmed transactions go? They all end up in a place called the mempool. Honestly, the best way to picture the mempool is as a giant public waiting room. It's the holding area for every single valid transaction that's just waiting to get written into the blockchain. And the wild part is, anyone can peek inside and see what's waiting. But here's a really important detail. There isn't just one single mempool for the whole world. Every computer, every node on the network has its own version of it. And they're all constantly gossiping with each other, sharing the latest transaction info to try and keep all their little waiting rooms as perfectly in sync as possible. So how does your transaction get out of this waiting room and into the main event? Well, this is where fees are everything. The fee you attach to your transaction is basically a tip for the miners. And since they get to keep those tips, they're always going to pick the transactions with the highest fees first. So a higher fee, that's you paying to skip the line. And this is why network traffic is such a huge deal. When the network's quiet, that waiting room is pretty empty. You can get processed super fast, even with a low fee. But when the network is congested, that waiting room is absolutely packed. It becomes a full-on bidding war with everyone trying to outbid each other with higher fees just to get a miner's attention. This is when confirmation times can blow out from a few minutes to hours. Okay, so your transaction survived the validation checks, and it won the bidding war in the mempool. It's now ready for the final climactic stage. This is where it transforms from just a pending request into a permanent, unchangeable piece of history. This path to becoming permanent has 3 last steps. First, a miner or a validator plucks your transaction from the mempool. Second, they bundle it together with a bunch of other transactions into a brand new block. And third, that block gets confirmed by the entire network. So what exactly is a block? Just think of it like a page in a massive digital ledger book. Miners are basically accountants, all competing to be the next one to add a new page. The winner of that competition grabs a whole bunch of transactions from the mempool, starting with the highest fee ones, of course, and bundles them onto their new page. Then they seal that page with a super complex cryptographic lock, which makes it virtually tamper-proof. This is how the network builds security, layer by layer. The second your transaction is in a block, that's one confirmation. But it doesn't just stop there. As new blocks get chained on top of that one, your transaction gets buried deeper and deeper, earning more confirmations. And with each new block, it becomes exponentially harder to go back and try to change anything. By the time you hit 6 confirmations, most services consider it totally set in stone. And all of this leads to the ultimate goal: finality. Transaction finality is the whole point of this entire journey. It's that moment when your transaction is buried so deep in the blockchain that it is absolutely permanent. It cannot be changed, it cannot be reversed, it can't be deleted. It is now part of the public record, forever. So we've now followed a transaction all the way from send to finality. But before we wrap this up, let's cover some of the practical stuff. Common mistakes and the really big takeaways. In our last section, the fine print. Yeah, let's just clear up a few things that trip a lot of people up. First, crypto transactions are not instant. They have to make that whole journey we just talked about. Second, and this is a big one, they cannot be reversed. Unlike your bank, there's no customer service line to call. Once it's confirmed, it is done. And finally, the blockchain doesn't just update for the whole world in the same millisecond. It takes time for that new block to spread across the global network. And this is why you really have to be careful. If you send crypto to the wrong address, it's like dropping cash into a black hole. It is gone for good. If you set your fee way too low when the network is busy, your transaction can get stuck in that mempool waiting room for hours or even days. You just always have to remember that network conditions can change on a dime. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this: what looks like a simple transfer of money is actually this incredibly sophisticated multi-step verification process. Every single part of it, from that first digital signature to the node validation to the mining competition, it's all designed to build security and trust in a system that has no central boss, no bank, no middleman at all. And really, that brings us to the final thought. This journey from send to settled isn't just about moving value around. It is a live demonstration of something called decentralized consensus. Now, I know that sounds like a fancy technical term, but it's exactly what we just watched. Thousands of independent computers all over the world with no one in charge, all agreeing to follow the same rulebook to collaborate and create a secure, transparent, and unchangeable public record. And that, in a nutshell, is the real magic of the blockchain. Thanks for watching.